Welcome back to another episode of Local Search Tuesdays. This week, we're sharing another awesome presentation that I gave recently at the MNsearch Summit conference in Minneapolis. Last month, I was lucky enough to be invited to speak at the MNsearch Summit, an awesome conference in Minneapolis. The MNsearch team put together an amazing event, and I got to see a lot of speaker friends who I hadn't seen since before the COVID break. It was the first time in years that I got to sit in the front row and live tweet the talks with Ruth Barridi. And I need to send a special thank you to Mike King for wearing his jacket with my initials on it for his opening keynote. So without further ado, here's my presentation. This is how to be marvelous. Get it? At Local SEO. You know who I am because you're watching this on my video series, but if it's the first time you are seeing one of these videos, this is Local Search Tuesdays. You can catch it every Tuesday on the Search Lab blog or catch links on our social media. And I'm lucky enough to get to speak at a lot of conferences all over the world, so sometimes I see some speakers who aren't as engaging in person, where typically they don't have any graphic design whatsoever. It's just plain white slides, and they pack every slide with a ton of bullet points and just sit there and read bullet points, and that is no fun for anyone. And it's a scientifically proven fact that bullet points kill kittens, so we're going to keep all the kitties safe today. And you saw the superhero reference there at the beginning to Marvel. I am a film nut. I've got a ton of movies in my iTunes library. I see a movie every week in the theater, and I've got most of my body covered with movie tattoos. So I always love to share my love of movies with my love of talking about digital marketing. So today's theme is superhero movies. We've got at least one superhero movie for every year in the last 50 years. And for the more obscure stuff, there is attribution over to the side. So not only will you learn how to show up better in local searches, you'll have a kick-ass list of superhero movies to watch later. So let's get this thing going and not waste any more time. Why the long face? Are you spending too much time looking up at competitors that rank higher in local searches? You don't have to have a huge brain to succeed at local SEO. You just have to know what you're doing. Even though sometimes it seems like it's a lot of magic and voodoo, it's really not. I got a lot of hot tips to share with you today that will show you how to crush your competition and kick ass in search results. You got to understand that Google uses multiple algorithms, and the local algorithm weights the factors differently and includes additional signals that the traditional algorithm doesn't pay any attention to, which means you need to optimize differently if you're optimizing for a local business. So how do you know if you need local SEO? It's pretty simple. If you do face-to-face business with customers, either at a brick and mortar location or at the customer's location, like a plumber or an electrician, you need local SEO. And sometimes even if you do e-commerce, you still need local SEO. So search for some of your most important money-making keywords. And if you see a map pack displayed, that means that sometimes that search query has local intent, and you'll need to do local SEO even though you don't have a physical location. So pay attention to the annual Local Search Ranking Factor study, where they take the top 40-ish experts across the planet and send out a really in-depth survey to try to figure out which factors influence local search visibility. Because if you talk to all of the experts that are testing things every single day and working with local clients and getting results, and then you aggregate the answers, you'll get a pretty good handle on what influences local visibility. This year's study was just released at the end of March, and you get two pie charts. One that shows you the factors that influence visibility in the map pack or in Google Maps, and another that shows you the factors that influence your visibility in the localized organic search results. This is pretty much your guide to exactly what you need to do if you want to show up better in local searches. And I like to boil things down to simple concepts, and pizza delivery is actually the simplest way to explain how the local algorithm works. If you search just the two words pizza delivery at your office, you'll get a list of all the pizza spots right by your office. But you could do the same search at home with the same two words and get totally different search results. And that's not possible with Google's traditional algorithm. If you rank number one, you're going to rank number one everywhere. But in local, your physical location in the real world, where you're doing the search, affects the search results that you're going to see. So this is a really great example to use. And remember that it's not just optimizing a few keywords to try to show up in search results. It's also optimizing the user experience on your website and optimizing for better conversions on your website, because we know that when it comes to local businesses, people are going to shop around. they're going to do some research and figure out where they want to buy. And the more expensive your product or service is, the more people are going to shop around. So you need to stand out from the competition and be memorable and be appealing and give people a reason to come back to your site and convert at a later date. Because if you've got the same generic BS content as all of your competitors, why is anyone going to care? You're just a random possible place to buy. You're not the clear choice of where everyone should do business. So use the content on your website to prove to everyone why you're so stinking awesome that they shouldn't consider buying from anybody else. And make sure that your content is actually about your business and about the local area. There's a really easy way to test that. Look at your homepage content and change only two things: the name of your business and the city that you're located in. Could you then take that content and put it on a similar type of business's website on the other side of the country? Would the content still work? Because if it would, that means it's not really about you, not really about your local area. You should also test it by reading it out loud. Everything on your website should sound conversational, like something that you would say face to face to a person that just walked in the front door. And if you're just reading it and thinking it in your head, you don't catch those phrases that sound awkward when you speak them out loud. So read it out loud to test it. And the most important thing to remember when it comes to SEO, if you want to show up as a search result when someone types a particular search phrase into Google, then you need a page of content on your website that's about that singular concept. And that page needs to be the best answer in the local area to the question that that potential customer is asking. And if you're writing the best answer, that means you're probably going to answer some or all of the subsequent questions that that potential customer might have once they read or hear that initial answer. So that's how you write amazing content. And once you've written the amazing content, you need to optimize it for the algorithm. And since we're targeting the local algorithm that looks at things differently, we need to optimize differently than what you traditionally hear about when you're optimizing a page. So I'm going to walk you through the page elements that need to be optimized. And keep in mind, you need the same keyword phrase in every element and the same location phrase in every element. So the most important is the title tag. It's what's above, it's in the little tab above where you type in the URL. And what typically influences the blue link text when you show up as a search result in Google. Never put your business name first because you're the only business name that. So put that important keyword phrase and city in there. And you also need it in the H1 heading, which is the big thick headline above the main text area of the site. It should be a bit more conversational, have the same keyword, same city. You need it in your page content as well. But hey, let's face it, if you've written content that's all about your business, all about the local area, that's the best answer in the area, that also answers subsequent questions, you're probably not going to have to optimize much here. You also need it in the alt text on images, which is some descriptive text that's inside the embed code that causes the image to display. Google used to include it in the algorithm because it couldn't tell what was in images, but now machine learning allows it to tell what's in images, but it's still part of the algorithm. So it's a great way to stand out from the local competition because people typically don't optimize the alt text on their images. You also need it in the URL for each page on your site. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go update URLs. You shouldn't change the URL for a page that's already been indexed, but as you create new content, remember this and add those phrases into the URL. You also need to have them in the meta description. Now, the meta description doesn't have any influence on ranking, but since it populates the couple of gray sentences that show up under your blue link when you show as a search result in Google, you got to write something compelling there, so make sure you include those as well. You also need to have a blog. You need to be posting on a regular basis because there's a big difference between the type of content that goes on the main section of your site, which is bottom of funnel content, and the content that should go on your blog, which is mid to upper funnel content. So don't always expect to get leads from blog posts. It's more about discoverability and brand awareness. You can even get better visibility if you write local informational content. So these are posts that are useful, helpful, interesting information about the local area that may or may not have anything to do with your business. And this is like putting a billboard up on the highway. You don't expect that everyone that sees the billboard is going to buy from you. And when you put this type of content up, it's going to show up in searches for people that aren't looking to buy what you sell, but it gets their eyeballs on your site, which builds brand awareness. So it's really awesome. But if you're not sure how to do this, I've got a really awesome video here that walks you through 10 different concepts that you can use to come up with your own ideas for localized blog content. And everybody always wants to try to show up in nearby cities, But you've got to own your backyard first. And what I mean by that is that if you don't have a solid enough foundation of optimization that you're going to dominate the search results in the town where you're actually located, then you've got no hope of out SEOing the people in other locations. Remember the pizza example. Your physical location in the real world where you do the search influences your search results. So you've got to have a solid SEO foundation and own your backyard first. But when you want to expand, if you're in a less competitive area or something that's a little bit more rural, you can probably just throw up a couple of city pages. This video will walk you through how to do it. But if you're in a more competitive area or a denser metro area, you're going to have to be more advanced and use local content silos. So watch this video and it will walk you through that. The algorithm also evaluates links differently. We don't really care if a link has a high authority score. Plus, authority scores are kind of BS metrics that SEO tools invented, and they don't really have any real-world equivalent in the algorithm. But especially in local, most of the time you're getting links from local websites that don't do a lot of SEO, so they're going to have a low authority score. So we don't care. And we don't care if the links are no-follow, because it's been proven time and time again that no-follow links still move the needle when it comes to the local algorithm. So really just worry about the fact that the link is local, a local business, a local website. And the easiest way to get those links is to get involved in the local community to earn those links. Do all the old school marketing that businesses used to do before we had the internet. Things like local sponsorships. Google's not okay with you buying links, but you can totally buy a sponsorship that results in a link. So Little League, Pee Wee football, Pee Wee hockey, 5Ks, golf tournaments, anything like that are awesome opportunities to get local links. Go to meetup.com and look for groups that have regular meetings in the local area. You can use Facebook groups as well, and find groups that are looking for meeting sponsors, and you can throw in 50 or 60 bucks a month to buy their pizza and their soft drinks as long as they send you a sweet local link. Get the local bloggers to write about you. Even if the local bloggers say they got a free widget for writing about your widget company, doesn't matter. It's an awesome local link. Talk to the staff about what they're passionate about and what they spend their free time doing outside of work. Because if someone belongs to a local club or organization, or even better, if they're in the leadership group of that local club or organization, it's going to be exceedingly easy to get an awesome local link pointed to your site. You can also use Google. Come up with your own seed list of keyword phrases and add your city name in, and Google's going to spit out a bunch of awesome opportunities where you can get links. I'm also sharing our onboarding questionnaire with you. This is a questionnaire we send to all new clients that we work with. It will help you classify and prioritize link building opportunities in the future, and it uncovers a lot of low-hanging fruit where you can get links from things that have already happened in the past. Google's local algorithm also evaluates reviews, and they're a weighted element, and they've actually gained weight or importance in the local algorithm every year for the past few years. But I'm not talking about the testimonials page on your website. That's pretty much worthless. People want to read honest, unbiased reviews on third-party sites, so that testimonials page that just has awesome 5-star reviews isn't going to do anything for you. So you've got to have a proactive review process. You want to make sure that it's really easy for people to leave a review, and you want to ask every single customer. And make sure you're answering every single review as well, not just the good ones, not just the bad ones, but every review that you get. And remember, when you respond to a bad review, that your response isn't for the person that left the bad review. It's for every potential customer in the future who's going to read your reviews and wants to see how you handled the situation. And the algorithm doesn't actually care how many reviews you have. There's no magic number of, if you get X number of reviews, you're going to rank higher. You just need to be sure that you've got more reviews than the local competition. And as you're acquiring new reviews, kind of tread that narrow, nice edge and make sure that your acquisition pace is basically the same as your local competitors, or maybe slightly a little bit faster. And here's some interesting information from recent research. If a review includes a photo, it stays in that default sort. That's what's automatically displayed when you get to the Google Business Profile for a lot longer period of time. And if the review has more text in it, it stays in that default sort for longer. And if the review has 2 or more upvotes, the little thumbs up that you can click on for the review, it stays in the default top 10 for longer. So combine all three and use those tactics to bury bad reviews that show in that default sort, because most people are going to come in and click to look at your most recent reviews or your best reviews or your worst reviews, but those default sort reviews show up first. And if you've got a bad review there, it can be pretty damaging. So find someone that's recently given you a positive review. Ask them to add more context and more of a story to the review, so there's more text. Ask them to add a photo to their review. And then once they've done so, have a couple of people on your team go upvote that review, and it'll jump up to the top and bury those bad reviews quickly. And you got to pay attention to your Google business profile. It's basically the new home page for your business, because people don't have to go to your website to get your phone number, your address, or see photos, or do any of that stuff. Plus, a properly optimized Google business profile allows you to show up better in map pack search results. So make sure you fill out everything. You don't need to fill out the areas served field, though. That doesn't really do anything. But everything else you can fill out, make sure you fill it out. Make sure you add UTM tracking to all of the links in your Google business profile, not just the website link, but your appointments link or your products or services link, or even the links in your Google posts. So watch this video. It walks you through it. You want to make sure you get proper attribution in Google Analytics, and make sure that the landing page that you're linking to, which is typically going to be your home page, is optimized for your most important money keyword phrase and the city that you're in. Make sure you've listed your correct hours of operations. Make sure you've uploaded high quality photos. Make sure you selected all of the appropriate categories that actually will relate to what you do. There's 10 slots. It doesn't mean you need to use all 10, but use every category that actually applies to what you do, and be strategic with the first category that you choose, because that primary category is more weighted in the algorithm. If you're having problems with anything, support has to follow a script, and sometimes they don't understand all of the intricate rules. So typically you don't want to really go to support, or if you do go to support and you're not getting help, there is another option. You can post on the Google Business Profile Community Forum and get help from product experts, which are volunteers who help people on the forum. And once they've answered things correctly and consistently, Google invites them to the product expert program. So they have a little badge. That means they're endorsed by Google, and you can trust that that person knows their stuff and they're going to be able to help. And make sure you're using Google Posts. I mentioned them a minute ago, but they're basically free ads that show on your Google business profile. And here's a video that I did for Moz a few years ago that's about 15 minutes of densely packed information about how to be successful with posts. So go check it out. The main secret for success is optimizing the thumbnail. Most people only pay attention to the full post, but no one's going to see the full post unless the thumbnail is compelling, and Google's going to crop to a smaller version of the photo automatically and just display a few lines of text. The problem here, though, is cropping is really inconsistent and wonky, so you can't really control as much what shows up in that thumbnail. And if half the photo is cropped out or some of the text is cropped out, it's not as effective. So we created a Photoshop guide that's going to help you have better control over what shows up. You can download it at the link right there, and it looks like this. Anything inside of that white grid is going to show on the thumbnail, and then everything else will show when they see the full post. Make sure you're not using stock images here, because if you use original imagery in your Google posts, they'll get 5 times more click-throughs. You want to pay attention to the questions and answers widget as well. It allows anybody to ask you a question, and any random person can answer the question for you. The general public thinks that it's a chat widget, and that there's somebody on the other end waiting to answer their question. And questions can receive multiple answers because it's not a chat widget. It's basically a community discussion feature. So you can get a lot of different answers to the questions, but the answer that has the most thumbs up or the most upvotes is the one that's displayed as the primary answer. You can even ask your own questions. So take all of those frequently asked questions off your site and add them to your Google business profile. Nobody's going to go read through the 40 questions on your site to see if their question is maybe there and maybe has an answer, but they will click ask a question on your business profile and start to type it in. And the really cool thing about the way that it works, if a similar question has been asked and answered in the past, Google will automatically display an answer to the question as it's being typed in. Last cool thing, we have a local SEO scoring matrix that we use at conferences and in demos when we're talking to potential clients that we might be working with. It's basically a mini local SEO audit, and it scores the 4 major areas that influence visibility in local searches, which are the content on your site and how it's optimized, the links pointed at your website, your Google business profile, and your reviews and how you respond to those reviews. It's important to point out that the matrix scores on tactics, not strategy. If it was too heavy on the strategy side, then it would be easy for other people to argue and say, well, that's SearchLab's way of doing SEO. Our strategy is better. You could ignore that. But when we're talking basic tactics, the SEO 101 stuff that everyone would agree is important to be handled, people can't really argue the results that way. Now, this was a huge game changer for us. We more than doubled the close rate of our demos with potential clients. Those 4 areas are weighted to approximate the importance of each area to Google's local algorithm. And then you add the scores together and you get a score anywhere from 0 to 100 points. The highest score that we've ever seen was an 83.6 because it's basically impossible to get a perfect score. But this was one of our clients. The highest non-client score that we saw was a 65.2. And some of the things that you are scored on, if they're wrong enough, you'll actually lose points. So the lowest score that we've seen was actually a negative 58.4. The average overall, though, out of almost 1,000 that we've done in the last year and a half, is only 18.3 out of 100 points. If you'd like to check out the matrix and see how it works, I strongly suggest you go check it out. The generic version is right there at that link. That will work for any local business. And then we've also created versions that are specific to the verticals that we work with fairly often. So I'm sharing one of those with you, and that's the auto dealer version. So you can compare the two to see how we've changed it to work differently for a specific vertical and how we've changed the scoring so that it's still consistent and still works on the same scoring range. You should check it out because you can do the same thing if you specialize in a particular vertical. And it's really awesome at pointing out obvious opportunities so that when you have those initial conversations with potential clients, you look like you've done all this work and you can have a better conversation about real world opportunities instead of just a generic demo that says that you can help. It's also a really great guide for your team once you decide to work with someone or someone decides to work with you, because it shows you all of the low-hanging fruit that you should work on when you're working on the initial optimization of the website. So thanks so much for sitting through that absolute fire hose of information. I tried to go really fast because I know you're watching this online. Now you'll no longer be down and depressed when you're thinking about local SEO because all of these hot tips will help you. And I know you think I'm using the same joke, but I'm not, because this is Ghostwriter 2. You'll no longer be the underdog in search results, and everyone will be super psyched at the visibility that you have online. That was how to be marvelous at local SEO. If you've got questions, pop me an email. I'm always happy to help. Or if you'd like a copy of the slides, I'll shoot them to you, because at the end, as always, there's a list of all the movies by order of release date. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around to watch the whole thing. That's definitely all the time we've got left for this week's episode. So you know what that means. Put your hand on the screen right here. We totally just high-fived because you learned something awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Local Search Tuesdays.